I gave her my blanket, but Mama's still shaking, the boy said to the rancher. Mr. Collins? Mama won't stop shaking. Ezra Collins drops his hammer. The voice cuts through the morning air like a blade. At his gate stands a boy, maybe 8 years old, clutching a torn piece of fabric in both hands. What did you say, son? Mama won't stop shaking. I gave her my blanket, but she's still shaking. The boy's eyes hold something Ezra recognizes. Terror mixed with the fierce protection of someone too young to carry such weight. Clay Morrison. He knows the boy from town, knows his mama Elena lives alone since David died. When did this start? Yesterday. After the letter came. Ezra sets down his fence tools. The boy hasn't moved from the gate, hasn't asked permission to enter. Just stands there holding that piece of fabric like it might save the world. She won't eat. Won't talk. Just sits in her chair and shakes. What kind of letter? Official looking. Had a seal on it. Clay's voice breaks on the last word. Ezra sees the boy's shoulders shake, sees how hard he's fighting tears. I wrapped her in every blanket we got. Even the good one from Papa's closet. She just keeps shaking. Did she say anything about the letter? No, sir. Just read it and went white as milk. Then the shaking started. Ezra walks closer to the gate. The boy doesn't flinch, doesn't step back. Those eyes stay locked on his face. I tried everything, Mr. Collins. Even sang her the song she likes. The one Papa used to sing when she had bad dreams. She just keeps shaking. Why did you come to me? Because Papa said you were the only man in this county who couldn't be bought. The words hit Ezra like a punch. David Morrison had been a good man, a quiet man. If he'd said that, he'd meant it. I ain't leaving till you come see for yourself. Ezra looks at the boy's face, sees David's stubborn streak mixed with Elena's gentle heart. Sees something else too. Something that makes his blood run cold. Get in the truck, son. The Morrison house sits like a wound in the earth. Paint peels from its wooden sides, and the porch sags under the weight of too many sorrows. Ezra follows Clay through the front door. Mama? I brought help. Elena Morrison sits in a wooden chair in the center of the living room. She's fully dressed, hair brushed, shoes on her feet. But she's not there. Not really. Her eyes stare at something beyond the walls, beyond the present moment. Her whole body trembles. The chair creaks with the rhythm of her shaking. Started right after she read that letter. Clay whispers. Like something crawled inside her. Ezra has seen this before. In soldiers returning from places they couldn't speak about. In women who'd suffered things that had no names. This isn't cold. This isn't fear. This is deeper. This is cellular. Mrs. Morrison? Can you hear me? No response. The shaking continues, steady as a heartbeat. On the floor near her feet lies a crumpled piece of paper. Official courthouse stationery, partially visible beneath the wrinkles. Clay kneels and smooths it with small, desperate hands. 20 years. Clay reads aloud, struggling with the words. Parole granted. Release date. The shaking intensifies. The chair protests with sharper creaks. What's that mean, Mr. Collins? Ezra takes the letter. The letterhead reads clear as Judgment Day. Notice of parole hearing. State Correctional Facility. At the bottom, a name that makes his blood freeze. James Calhoun. Mrs. Morrison, who is James Calhoun? Elena's eyes finally focus. They land on Ezra's face like a falling stone. He's coming home, she says. Her voice sounds hollow, like wind through a broken window. Who's coming home, Mama? Clay asks. Elena looks at her son for the first time since they entered. The shaking never stops, but something flickers in her eyes. Recognition. Love. Terror. He's coming home, she repeats. When? Ezra asks. Elena points at the letter with a trembling finger. Ezra reads the release date. Next week. 7 days. Who is he, Mrs. Morrison? Elena's mouth opens, closes, opens again. When she finally speaks, her voice barely rises above a whisper. He's the reason I shake. That evening, Ezra drives to Louise Webb's farmhouse. Louise sits on her porch, smoking a cigarette like she's been waiting for him. You want to know about Elena Morrison, she says before he can speak. How did you? Saw you leave her place with that boy. Figured it was time somebody told the truth. Louise stubs out her cigarette. Her eyes hold the weight of 20 years' worth of buried secrets. That Morrison girl was different once. Bright. Had dreams bigger than this place. What happened to her? James Calhoun happened to her. The name hangs in the air like smoke. Ezra knows the Calhouns. Old money. Old power. The kind of family that owns counties instead of just living in them. They were engaged 21 years ago. Elena was 19, pretty as a picture. James was the golden boy, heir to the biggest ranch in 3 counties. She loved him. Thought she did. Till she saw what he really was. Louise lights another cigarette with shaking hands. James had appetites that went beyond marriage. Elena tried to leave him. Tried to run. What stopped her? James and his brothers. They caught her at the county line. Took her to their hunting cabin up in the hills. Louise's voice drops to a whisper. 3 days later, they found her walking naked down the highway. Hair all matted, covered in bruises. Wouldn't say what happened. Just kept repeating the same thing over and over. What? I want to go home. Ezra feels something cold settle in his chest. She pressed charges. Brave girl. James got convicted of assault, sentenced to 25 years. But the Calhouns owned the judges, owned the juries. Good behavior, model prisoner, rehabilitation complete. And Elena? She was pregnant when she left that cabin. Clay doesn't know his daddy's name. Doesn't know why his mama sometimes stares at him like she's seeing a ghost. The pieces fall into place with sickening clarity. She married David Morrison 6 months later. Quiet man, good man. Loved that boy like his own blood. Died in a farming accident 5 years ago. Accident. Louise meets his eyes. David Morrison knew how to work machinery. Been doing it his whole life. So Elena's been alone with Clay, waiting. The shaking started the day she got that first letter about the parole hearing. Been getting worse ever since. Ezra returns to the Morrison house as darkness settles over the county. Elena hasn't moved from the chair. Clay sleeps on the floor beside her, one small hand resting on her ankle like an anchor to keep her from drifting away completely. I know what happened to you, Ezra says quietly. Elena's eyes focus on him for the first time since morning. Real focus, not the empty stare that's been haunting her face. Then you know why I can't stop shaking. James Calhoun gets out next week. The trembling intensifies at the name. The chair creaks its familiar rhythm. He'll come here. He said he would. Said this place was his, and everything in it. What do you mean? Before the trial. He looked right at me in that courtroom and said no cage could hold him forever. Said when he got out, he'd finish what he started. Ezra kneels beside her chair, careful not to wake Clay. Not while I'm breathing. Elena looks at him like he's speaking a foreign language. You don't understand. The Calhouns own this county. Sheriff's their cousin. Judge plays poker with them every Tuesday night. They'll say it was a family dispute. Say I'm unstable. Take Clay away. Then we make sure they can't. How? I don't know yet. But we will. Elena studies his face in the dim light. Really looks at him for the first time. You'd do that? For us? Yes. Why? Ezra's voice drops to barely a whisper. My wife died because I wasn't there to protect her. Car broke down on the highway. I was in town, drinking with the boys. Found her too late. Clay stirs at the sound of voices, but doesn't wake. His small fingers tighten on his mother's ankle. I won't make that mistake again. Something shifts in Elena's eyes. Not hope exactly, but the possibility of it. The shaking hasn't stopped, but it's changed somehow. Less desperate. More determined. What do you need me to do? She asks. First, you need to stop shaking. I can't. Yes, you can. How? Because that boy needs his mama to be strong. And strength doesn't shake. Elena looks down at Clay's sleeping form, then back at Ezra. I don't remember how to be strong. Then I'll help you remember. James Calhoun steps off the prison transport into a hero's welcome. Judge Reynolds has organized a redemption dinner at the country club. Sheriff Bradley personally escorts him from the gate, all smiles and backslaps. Welcome home, James. Time to put the past behind us. But Ezra has been busy during the week of waiting. He's contacted federal marshals, victims' rights advocates, journalists from the state capitol. Elena's case has become something bigger than a small county can bury. Elena sits in front of a video camera in Ezra's living room, Clay beside her. Federal investigators watch from the other end of the connection. Her voice grows stronger with each word. I was 19. I trusted him. I thought I loved him. What did the defendant tell you about leaving? The federal attorney asks. He said if I tried to leave again, he'd kill me and make it look like an accident. Said his family would make sure Clay never knew his real mama. The federal attention makes the Calhouns desperate. At midnight, 3 figures appear at Ezra's ranch. James, his brother Robert, and Sheriff Bradley. This is family business, Collins, James says. You're interfering. She's not family. She's a victim. She's my son's mother. That makes Clay mine. Ezra's hand rests on his shotgun, visible in the porch light. Over my dead body. That can be arranged, Robert threatens. But something moves in the darkness beyond the porch. Elena steps into the light, no longer shaking. Clay walks behind her, holding her hand. I'm not afraid of you anymore, she tells James. James laughs, but the sound is hollow. You should be. I'm free now. Clean slate. No. You're still the same coward who needed his brothers to hold down a 19-year-old girl. The words hit like bullets. James's face twists with rage. Walk away, Collins. While you still can. Or what? You'll have me killed like David Morrison. The words hang in the midnight air. Elena gasps. Even Sheriff Bradley shifts uncomfortably. What did you say? Elena whispers. James realizes his mistake, but it's too late. The federal investigators have been recording everything through Elena's phone. David's accident wasn't an accident, was it? Elena's voice cuts through the darkness. The balance of power has shifted. Federal eyes are watching. Media attention is growing. Their protection is crumbling. James steps toward Elena, but Ezra blocks his path. You made one mistake 20 years ago, Ezra says quietly. You left her alive. The revelation about David Morrison's death breaks the case wide open. Federal investigators swarm the county like locusts. They find brake line tampering on David's truck. Witness intimidation records. Evidence suppression files. The Calhoun empire crumbles under federal scrutiny. But James isn't finished. 2 days before his arrest warrant comes through, he corners Elena and Clay at the old cemetery where David Morrison lies buried. The afternoon sun casts long shadows between the headstones. You can't keep my son from me forever. Elena stands over David's grave, Clay beside her. Neither of them runs. He's not your son. He's mine. Blood says different. Clay steps forward. The boy who'd been trembling with fear just weeks ago now stands straight and tall. I don't care whose blood I got. Mama chose Papa David. Papa David chose me. That makes me a Morrison. James's face twists with rage. You're my blood. My heir. I'm nobody's heir. I'm my own person. Elena's voice grows stronger with each word. And I choose Ezra. I choose to stop running. You don't get to choose. Not after what you cost me. James pulls a gun from his jacket. His final desperate act. But the cemetery holds more than graves and memories. Louise Webb emerges from behind a tall headstone, her hunting rifle trained on James's chest. This is consecrated ground, James Calhoun. You don't belong here. Stay out of this, old woman. I've been staying out of it for 20 years. That ends today. Gravel crunches as a patrol car pulls through the cemetery gates. Sheriff Bradley steps out, but he's not alone. Federal marshals flank him on both sides. James Calhoun, you're under arrest for conspiracy, witness intimidation, and accessory to murder. You can't touch me, Bradley. My family owns you. Not anymore. Bradley produces handcuffs with hands that no longer shake. Federal oversight has cleaned house. New badges, new loyalties, new justice. As James is led away in handcuffs, Elena places her hand on David's weathered headstone. For the first time in months, she's perfectly still. No trembling. No fear. Thank you, she whispers to Ezra. For what? For seeing me as more than what they tried to make me. Clay kneels and picks wildflowers from around the grave. He arranges them carefully on the stone that marks his real father. The man who chose to love him, not the one whose violence created him. Papa David would have liked you, Mr. Collins. I would have liked him too. The sun sets over the cemetery, painting everything in gold. Elena takes Ezra's hand. Her grip is steady and sure. The shaking has finally stopped. What happens now? Clay asks. Elena looks at her son, then at Ezra, then at the peaceful face of David's headstone. Now we go home. 6 months later, Elena works beside Ezra mending the same stretch of fence where Clay first appeared with desperate eyes and trembling hands. Her hands are steady now, her voice confident. Clay helps them work, chattering about school, about the ranch, about plans for spring planting. The Calhoun trials ended with federal convictions. James received life without parole. His brothers got 20-year federal sentences. Sheriff Bradley testified for the prosecution as part of his plea deal. Elena kept David Morrison's name. Clay kept his father's memory. But both have chosen Ezra as their future. You know what I realized? Elena says, hammering a nail into place. What's that? I spent so many years shaking because I thought they could take everything from me. But they couldn't take the only thing that mattered. Which is my choice to love Clay. My choice to love David. My choice to love you. Clay runs up from the house carrying something in his arms. The same torn blanket from that first morning, now carefully patched and mended. Mama, you want your blanket? Getting cold out here. Elena smiles, no trace of trembling in her voice. No, baby. Mama's not cold anymore. She takes the blanket and wraps it around Clay instead, pulling him close. The three of them stand together, watching the sun rise over land that no longer belongs to men who take what they want, but to people who choose what they give. In the distance, Louise Webb waves from her porch. The community that once enabled silence now protects those who speak truth. Clay looks up at Ezra with bright, untroubled eyes. You think Papa David would be proud of us? I think he'd be proud of your mama. Proudest man in the county. Elena touches the wedding ring she still wears on her left hand. David's ring, worn smooth by years of love and loss. Then she takes Ezra's hand with her other. Some ghosts help you remember love, she says quietly. Others teach you how to let go of fear. Which kind was Papa David? Clay asks. The good kind. The kind that stays to protect you, not to hurt you. The morning stretches ahead of them, clean and full of possibility. Elena's hands don't shake. Her voice doesn't break. The fear that once lived in her bones has been replaced by something stronger. Choice. Love. The courage to build something new from the ashes of what was broken. Clay runs toward the house, blanket trailing behind him like a banner. Elena and Ezra follow, walking hand in hand toward a future they've chosen together. The ghosts of the past watch from a distance, finally at peace.